So I'm asking teachers questions about one thing they want their students to know. So what's one thing you would want your students to know?
I want them to know that everybody's human. They make mistakes, they have bad days, they're sometimes cranky because they're hungry or tired. You never know what's going on in someone's life, and you gotta cut them slack sometimes and understand where they're coming from and the experiences that they've had that have shaped who they are that day.
What is one thing that you would want your students to know?
First of all, thank you for asking that question. It's a great question. It's really hard to choose because I find myself, as I age and as I further my journey of being a mom, there's so many things that I want young people to know. But I think the thing that stands out the most is that all perspectives in the world matter, and that just because somebody's perspective or opinion might be different than yours, it's okay, and it doesn't threaten your perspective or opinion, and that it's a good idea to listen, especially the things that make you uncomfortable or are really different than what you believe.
What's one thing you would want your students to know?
One thing I want my students to know is that the teachers in this building and myself, that we care about them. And the things that we do and the things that we say, and even though it might seem like nagging or annoying or we repeat ourselves over and over, it's because we really truly care about what we do. We put a lot of love and effort into our jobs, and our students matter more than anything to us.
I would like to have my students take more advantage of their high school years. There's so much opportunity there. You have more time and energy right now than you're ever going to have in the rest of your life. I think a lot of kids don't try a lot of things and get involved, don't push themselves as much as they should. I think it's because they maybe they fear failure, maybe effort, maybe there's things going on outside of school that they're struggling with. Put down their cell phones and observe what's going on out there and get more involved. People miss so much today because of the smartphones. Students are so talented, they have so much potential. They're different, you know, different talents and different skills, but there's so much for them to offer, and I wish that they would take more advantage of that and realize that more at this time in their life, so that they can take that with them for the rest of their life and be more successful.
Okay, what's one thing you want your students to know?
Strive for more every day. Don't let high school be your peak. Go out there and do awesome things after you leave, and come back and tell us about it and how awesome it was when you went and did all those great things.
What's one thing you want your students to know?
I want my students to know that being a teenager is really, really difficult, and things can get emotional sometimes, but it is okay to feel those emotions, and it's okay to have them, experience them, but you need to recognize that there are lessons to be learned from those emotions, and that we can all move forward if we can recognize what they are, what's caused them, and what we can do with them in the future.
I want students to know that their efforts to set goals for themselves and follow those all the way through will help them be successful not only in high school but all the way through their lives. And I want them to be kind to themselves and to others always.
So, one thing I want my students to know is that they need to be responsible for their own happiness, their own success. Things go wrong, things always go wrong, and you can't let it down. You gotta just, you know, take it as it comes and move on. You can't blame other people for your life. You can't blame circumstances. You just have to own it, be responsible for it, and learn from mistakes, because we all make mistakes, and just try and have a good life. Just really, you want to be happy, and you have to be in charge of that. Happiness doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. You got to be happy with yourself and your choices that you make. So I want my students to be happy.
What's something you want your students to know?
Well, the very first thing I want my students to know and to feel is how much fun it is to be part of choir at Stockbridge High School Middle School. I want my students to know how to have fun with music, and I want them to feel relaxed enough and free enough to experiment with their voices, just to see what's inside there, their natural abilities. Then after they learn about feeling comfortable with themselves, then I like them to develop their skills. So vocal skills include expanding their pitch, learning about vowels, breathing. We learn to read music. Reading music is super exciting once you get the hang of it. And it's pretty good. That's what I like my students to know.
One thing I want my students to know is it's okay to try and fail. Sometimes you try new things and it works out. Sometimes you try new things and they don't work out. But now's the time to experiment and try some things and take some risks. Hopefully something creative happens.
I think for me, if they knew how much we cared about them as we care about like our own kids, and let them understand that, and as well as that we want them to be successful in their futures, and we want to help them figure out what that looks like and what it means, and we want to help them get there.
Okay, there's one thing that I'd like all of my students to learn in my classroom, and that is confidence. Math is something that is difficult if you don't know a lot of the different tasks, and memorizing a bunch of the rules and the properties and applying that is difficult for people. And so my goal is to break things down into simpler steps so that they can feel confident that they can use those and apply it to something, whether it be in my classroom or outside of school. So the number one takeaway I'd like all of my students to have is confidence in their abilities to perform, trust the knowledge that they've gained, and then use it to apply something.
All right, so one thing I would like my students to know is that aside from my family, teaching has been and is the biggest part of my life. And my students' lives, I always try and get to know something about my students, and I care about what goes on in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And I kind of see myself as a surrogate, maybe not parent, but big brother or big sister to a lot of the students here. And so I just want students to know that it's not just about grades and succeeding, but also about their lives. And I hope that everything is going well in their lives so they can succeed in life. So it's a big part of my life. It's a big part of my heart. And us teachers have feelings too, and we just want the best for our students.